Welcome to Wild Heart Revival, a gathering place for heartfelt conversations and stories as pathways of renewal and revival. I am your host, Te Tayari, and today's guest is Zlatka Cholakova. Exploring the mystical within the practical, this episode emphasizes the transformative power of contemplation and its role in unveiling our inherent gifts. Through Zlatka's insightful journey with the Gene Keys system, we ponder the art of balancing shadows and gifts, cultivating trust, and embracing the interconnectedness of life. So join us as we navigate the golden path of self-discovery and evolution, weaving the threads of our essence into the tapestry of our lives. Zlatka describes herself as a student of life, a lover of nature, a mentor, a Gene Keys guide, retreat creator, and a ritualist, among many other roles that keep her on the path of the heart. And her primary concern lies with the heart. She deeply cares for our shared humanity and the earth, as well as the far-reaching impact that daily choices have on the quality of life, relationships, and future generations. Her passion lies in bridging the mystical and the practical, crafting ritual spaces that harmonize with nature and foster deep transformation. She also focuses on engaging in practices that seamlessly integrate insights into everyday life, ensuring a practical application of transformative wisdom. Through her work, she aims to empower leaders and creators to connect with their unique gifts and bring them to life. If you are curious about any of my other offerings, such as the personalized threshold counseling that I provide for individuals and couples, or if you are interested in reading my latest essays, simply visit coyotecouncil.earth. You'll find a direct link in the show notes. Additionally, you're invited to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, which provides updates on new podcast episodes alongside other creative happenings. You can subscribe on our website. Now, let us take this time with our dear guest Zlatka to remember our own hearts and to feel that golden thread that emanates out from the very center and connects us to our path as we contemplate together some of the ways in which we can become more aware and sensitive in our capacities to really feel, listen to, and follow that thread. I would like to explore this statement that I've seen you make, which is that you are bridging the mystical and the practical. I would love for you to let us in on what that really means for you and maybe how that has changed over time as well.
Thank you, Faye.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gene Keys has been a big part of my life, and it has helped me to create more bridges with bridging what you just spoke of, the mystical and the practical, which for me, how it shows up is it's bringing these contemplations, these different ways of really contemplation it's bringing anything that we desire into inwards and exploring it from a place of openness, from a place of curiosity, so that it's not just trying to figure it out, living from the mind, rather dropping it into the heart, dropping it into the body, so that there's an exploration, there's an openness rather than trying to get the answer. And I've been utilizing a lot of different rituals in my life, especially in the last year. It's just become part of my daily life multiple times a day, and different rituals, different ways of interacting with nature. And I love bringing in whatever I'm contemplating into my daily life to explore the mysticism. So one example would be, I love this practice that me and a few of my friends here, not a few, several, we're pretty solid group now. We practice this ancient tantric practice called a Dhuni. And the Dhuni it encompasses all the 8 limbs of yoga, and we interact with the fire. We chant these mantras, these 14 mantras, over 2.5-hour period, and we commune with the fire. And so our awareness and our attention is on the fire as we chant as a group these mantras. And what that creates, it creates these interruptions in the brain, in our thought patterns. And the fire just reflects everything back. There's like my friend Grant, who introduced me to this practice, he said we can project all we want, but then the fire is just going to reflect it back to us. And so this is such a potent practice that I do about 2 times a week now, and it's a commitment. It requires a lot of focus and devotion and willingness to show up, to prepare the space, which takes about an hour, to then go into the mantras, to the ritual, to the ceremony, and then to complete it. Just about a 4-hour, sometimes 5-hour process.
Wow.
And yeah, and when I'm in that space, I am, I'm utilizing pranayama, breath. I'm constantly, with every chant, I'm conscious with my breath. I'm fanning my inner flames. I'm also concentrating on the fire. But at the same time, the intention is to relax the body and to focus on the fire, like to be in this Shiva Shakti, in this to relax into the concentration, to allow the mysticism, the Shakti, this life force energy to move through us, not just within our own body, but within the group. And so that's one practice where it's practical. I bring, there's practicality, because it's something that I get to utilize in my day, with my body, with my breath, with my friends. And I'm purifying. Ultimately, it's a purification of the mind. It's purifying the mind so that more clear information can come through. And I've received the most, I've been through many ceremonies, and this, to me, it's like I've received so much information and messages for me to incorporate into my life, to integrate into my life. And then I got to do the work. I got to go and actually follow through. So that's one practice. So yeah, I love bridging this mysticism, this mystery, living in the mystery, and the mystery, it's unknown. I don't know her. And so I'm creating spaces and rituals and ways for me to interact with her, for me to interact with this great mystery, and to be open to explore what there is for me to learn. And it's been one of the biggest gifts, and that's a small part. This is just one way of doing this. And and I'll pause here for a moment.
Well, so I imagine, like, when you're with the fire in that way, it's like this living dialogue with this essential element of creation and form, and sounds like an intentional hollowing out, or like you said, a cleansing of the thinking mind that tends to pull us out of the moment, tends to abstract us away from the truth of the moment. So there's this cleansing and this clearing that allows you to then have a more natural, honest, truthful dialogue, an embodied dialogue with the fire as well. I imagine with the friends that you're with, with the community around that fire. And
Mhm.
So yeah, I love that you used that word. You said bridging the practical and the mysticism, and you also brought up the practice of, or the orientation of Tantra. And Tantra, as far as I know, really is this way of bridging the divine that is in the vastness of the cosmos with the more smaller, more, not smaller, but the more tangible, embodied and carnal aspects of self. You know,
Mhm.
it, kind of bringing it from the top and from the bottom and allowing it to meet at the center point of our being, the heart of
Mhm.
our being, and allowing it to find balance there. And so, yeah, I love that practices like that you outlined, rituals like that, they allow us to remember how to do that, so that you can
Mhm.
take it into your day to day, and hopefully there's that emanation that you carry with you. That remembering it extends beyond the ritual space.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I think it's so important at this time where it seems to be um, fairly simple for people to get caught up in the excitement of a spiritual orientation to life, but that seems to draw people really kind of up into these metaphorical higher realms.
Mhm. Mhm.
Noticing, even I do counsel work with people, uh, lots of like young adults right now, and what I'm noticing is there is this kind of focus on these higher aspects of self, you could call them.
Mhm.
I don't know if I align with that fully. I'm still figuring
Mhm.
that out. And what I'm noticing is that these people are really needing to like ground that into their body, um, and into the elemental aspects of self. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I, I'm
Yeah,
wondering, yeah, you want to say something on that?
I do. I do. Yeah, I'm noticing this as well. And I was also in a space in my life where I was also in this space where I was very much understanding these concepts through my mind. You know, I was understanding them, and there was like a deeper, like no, like a deeper resonance of like, oh yeah, I feel this to be true, but then I would conceptualize it, and it would just kind of stay there, and I wouldn't bring it into practice.
Mm,
And now what I love doing, and you know, I mentioned this big practice, this the Dhuni, which is a very ancient practice, but something more simple. It's like just daily small rituals. You know, every day when I wake up, I go and greet the sun. I say hello to the sun. I ground. I feel the earth beneath my feet.
yeah.
I bless my water before drinking it. I thank the water.
Mm,
I you know, before going to bed, I go to my altar and I just light an incense or make a little offering of gratitude. And it could take a minute, it could take 2 minutes, it could, you know, it doesn't have to be long, but it's just this acknowledgement of here I am, here's this new day, and I'm interacting with this great mystery that I have no idea about, but I'm here and I'm willing to be open to learn.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't have to be complex. It could be very simple, and it to me it like grounds my yeah, it grounds my being into it's almost like these morning and evening rituals help me to create these like kind of like these stamps, like okay, here I am starting my day and I'm closing the day. And that's what ritual is. It comes from the word rita, which means cosmic order. And when we're in cosmic order, when we create the conditions for transformation,
Yeah.
which requires preparation, requires, you know, requires our heart, it requires our presence,
Yeah.
then the transformation can move through with more ease, rather than yeah, trying to figure things with the mind. And yeah, so I feel that's important to bring it to the simple, to start
Yeah.
with the simple.
Yeah. I have to remind myself often that I'm a student of simplicity,
Mm,
because I recognize that it seems like, for me at least, the more simple I can make my days and my moments and my gaze out into the future, the more the more able I am to meet my days and my moments with what seems to be, I guess, just more balance, more presence, more patience and persistence, and more curiosity too. It's like the immensity and mystery of life makes me curious for sure, but it also, if I get too focused on that and the complexity of it all, it starts to feel like a heavy blanket or something. Like I don't know, blanket's cozy, like a heavy weight, that I'm carrying. To be able to kind of put that down and yeah, simplify and release and let go is really helpful. I was reminded when you're speaking of ritual, of these quotes like that I came across recently. One is by Christina Baldwin, and she says, "Ritual is the way you carry the presence of the sacred. Ritual is the spark that must not go out." Yeah, Jack Field says, "We need rituals of meaning to keep us present and available to what is happening in our lives."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's changed my life in all the ways. And yeah, truly.
Mm. Well, I'd love to transition into talking about the Gene Keys work that you do. And it would be great if you could share with us how you were initially drawn into the Gene Keys as a system, and what eventually inspired you to really dive in and begin to craft your own way of specializing in the Gene Key readings and supporting people through that system.
Yeah. The Gene Keys came into my life 6 years ago in April, so exactly 6 years ago. And or was it 7 years ago? Might have been 7 years ago, but 7 years ago. And I was visiting my mentor at her space in Chicago, and she's like, look what I found. And I'm like, what is this? And she's like, it's the Gene Keys. I'm like, what is the Gene Keys? And she was so excited about it, and just her enthusiasm just drew me in. And I've always been interested in esoteric wisdom and mysticism and just natural ways of living, and also studying these different disciplines, these different systems like astrology, numerology. Human design came actually after the Gene Keys for me. And yeah, these ways of interpreting patterns of life and how we're part of nature and how we can make decisions that are in harmony with nature. And that's ultimately what the I Ching, which is the base of the Gene Keys, what it was created for, to which is, if I can just share a little bit about just the base, is this. I feel the I Ching is really the mother of the Gene Keys. The I Ching was created 5,000 years ago as a way to. There are these 64 codes of nature, and these 64 codes give us information how we can interact with nature, how we can make decisions with nature that are in harmony. And they're made up of these 6 hexagrams, these masculine and feminine principles. And depending on their combination, they create a different archetype. And they're living archetypes that we can see all throughout nature, all throughout humanity. And it was one of the first oracles ever created. And so the Gene Keys came into my life from my mentor, and I just received this deep curiosity. And right away I remember getting into the car and going right into my profile and wanting to explore this natural curiosity to explore it. And so I remember ordering the book right away, and I was a little bit intimidated of the book. I was like, oh my God, this is this is a big book. A lot of information here. And I'm usually someone that likes to experience life more. I'm not like such a reader. I have a cat here. If you haven't noticed.
I've noticed.
uh,
Yeah.
she's the neighbor's cat. She just comes to give us love.
Oh, sweet.
So I remember being a little bit intimidated from the book, and I remember reading when one of the first pages is saying, approach this journey as you intuitively feel. You could utilize it as an oracle, you can utilize it and an oracle, it's like kitty. um and I can use basically to tune in and to check in how this this information wants to be approached.
Mhm.
And for me, I began first with exploring my own profile and being really deeply touched by the poetry, by the heart of the Jinkies. And I feel this is one of the big things that drew me in. There's so much heart.
Yeah.
It's very much to me, the Jinkies represents more of the feminine way of exploring these codes. It's more about the who am I when I'm in my life's work? Who am I in my evolution? Who am I in my purpose, that which deeply fulfills me? Whereas human design, I feel it's more of the masculine. It's more of the how. I'm giving a general description here.
Yeah, I recognize what you mean, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel they complement each other really well.
Mhm.
And so the Jinkies takes more time. It takes more time to understand because it's contemplative. It requires for us to contemplate these codes so that they open within, so that they begin to 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 be recognized within these qualities.
Mm.
Um, and that takes as long as it takes. And so it's not like a fixed thing. It's not like you're this and that's what it is. It's more, well, here are these qualities, here are these archetypes that are dominant, that are not dominant, prominent, that are going to show up more in our life.
Mm.
And I found it really useful to be aware of these qualities, of the shadows. The shadow is the frequency that is the victim state. The victim state it's when we're giving our power away, when we're not taking responsibility for our life, for our thoughts, for for how we show up in the world.
Mhm.
And then the gift state is the gift frequency. It's the heart. It's the bridge. The gift is the ego is still present, but now it's no longer in the driving seat. And then the siddhi, the highest aspiration, it's siddhi in Sanskrit, it means divine gift. And the siddhi, it's the flowering of our essence. It's the
Mm.
seed of our it's the beginning and the end. It's the flowering of our essence, but it's also the seed of our consciousness. It's the essence of who we are.
Mm.
So this is kind of like the North Node. It's when we're in the shadow, it just gives us a little bit of a perspective of what's on the other side of the shadow, and what helps us to bridge the two.
Yeah.
And that's the gift.
Yeah.
And I found it so useful to understand myself deeper, to go deeper into my own awareness and consciousness. And ultimately, this is what the Jinkies has been just an incredible ally for. It's helped me to, it's like this map, this internal map of qualities that I'm able to pick up on. And I notice when I'm in my shadow. I know when the shadow is coming up. I'm like, okay, here I am in my reaction.
Mm.
And what helps me to move into my gift, it's to embrace the shadow.
Mm.
It's to see it, it's not to hide from it. It's not to repress it. It's not to judge it. It's just to like, I see you. I see that you're here. I see you. And when I see it, it's no longer in the shadow. It's no longer in the shadow. And I could still feel sad, and I can still feel whatever I'm feeling, but I'm no longer giving my power away. I'm recognizing that I'm not identifying so much with, oh, this is who I am. So it's been very helpful to break down barriers, to dissolve these different identities that I've built around my life of who I think I am. And it's helped me to deconstruct meanings, because there's these words that the Gene Keys gives you. But then when I go deeper into the contemplation, it's like, whoa, I thought this word means something, but actually that's not what it means. And the meaning changes as I take it deeper within myself.
Could you give an example of like maybe from your own profile, if that feels comfortable?
Yeah.
Where you really recognized something of a great importance in it, and it really led to some kind of significant change or transformation in how you know yourself and how you interact with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I will share. So my evolution is what I'm here mostly to learn. And it works together with our life's work. They're programming partners. So they trigger each other to evolve when we're in the shadow, and when we're in the gift, they complement each other. So our life's work and our evolution, it's our personality. It's our outer expression. It's the doing rather than the being. So versus radiance and purpose, it's more of our core stability. It's the hidden gifts. It's our being. It's our naturalness. It's the soul's imprinting. And so my evolution, it's Gene Key 1, which is it's called the prime yang. It's the fire. And this is like the great masculine principle, which is playing with the great feminine principle. And so what I'm here to learn is Gene Key 1 moves from entropy, the shadow of entropy, which is this loss of energy. It's entropy. So I'm just going to share the full sequence here. It's moving from entropy to freshness, the gift of freshness, to the city of beauty. And so entropy, it's this loss of energy. Entropy is when our creative fire has died out. It's when we are, there's this feeling of numbness. There's this feeling of, this is actually the code that triggers depression. It's kind of responsible for the depression in the world. When we're not inspired, when we're not when our inner fire is not lit. And so when I notice, I've worked with entropy a lot in my life. I've noticed that, I notice it come up naturally as it's part of the creative process.
Yeah.
And this is what Richard Wood shares. It's any artist, it's going to go through this compost. It's going to go through this cycle of being in the void, being in the darkness, being in the, in this numbness. And the invitation for myself and for anyone else who experiences this, when I notice I'm in this state of deep sadness, not inspired, kind of feeling like, I can't create anything right now, to let the numbness in. To feel the numbness. And this is what Richard Wood shares. Richard Wood is the founder and the creator of the Gene Keys. He says, we don't, to be aware that we're numb is it's a big step. Most of humanity is not aware that that we're numbing ourselves with all the external things and filling our mind and body with so many things. But to just let the numbness, like to feel what is, like just to feel.
Yeah.
And so I've made a practice to feel the pain, to feel the numbness, to feel whatever it is I'm feeling. And as I feel, I relax into my body. I'm not so tense anymore. I relax.
Mm.
And as I relax, something new emerges.
Yeah.
And that's the freshness.
Mm.
That's the freshness. A new kindling comes through. And that's the beauty of this gift. It's that freshness cannot come from, freshness is fresh. It's absolutely new. It's original. It's the pioneer's gift. And for something new to emerge, it comes from the ashes. It comes from this void. It comes from the feminine, right? The feminine is that deep void. I'm talking more as a how I understand it. The feminine is like the womb, and then the masculine is that penetrative light. It's the fire. And so how this works is when I'm in entropy, I'm also dislocated, which is my shadow in my life's work. I'm dislocated from my truth. I'm dislocated from my rhythm. I'm dislocated from I'm not fully feeling at home within myself, which is what orientation is, which is my gift.
Mm.
And orientation, when we're oriented, we're moving from we're at one within ourselves. We're moving from our solar plexus. We're moving like the river. We're oriented in life. And so we're trusting in life, and synchronicities start happening. And when freshness and orientation come together, it's the masculine and feminine dancing together. I notice a lot of synchronicities happening in my life. I notice a lot of inspiration, a lot of new ways of living, new ways of creating new things. It feels like I feel like I'm one with life.
Mm.
And then the city of the second gene key of my life's work is unity. And then ultimately that's the highest aspiration of my life's work, is to be a visionary, as I have line 6 here, to be a visionary of unity, to hold the vision of unity, to help others to orient their gifts, to connect with their inner unity, with their inner home. And so that's a little bit about my profile.
Yeah, I love, you said earlier how it seems like the Gene Keys is very heart-centered, and I would agree. I feel it's really welcoming and heartwarming to read it, even, and also when you begin to, and the invitations seem like there's a fierce grace about them. There's a ferocity, but it's graceful, and it's generous, and it's inviting. And even just hearing you explore your own profile, how it's resonated with you, I can feel in you like there's this radiance that's coming through you as you describe it. And so to me, it's like, okay, that's a really powerful framework to plug into if it really if you really give yourself over to it and allows your inner radiance to come through. So thank you for sharing everything that you did there. And I had this visual when you were talking about the void of the feminine, this like infinite potentiality, and then the masculine, the light of the masculine coming through and organizing it and giving it orientation and direction. And that dance then allows, if it's in balance, it allows for the most optimal or the most beautiful resonant form to become and to manifest. And I found a quote from you, one of the things that you wrote up, it reminded me of this, and so I'd like to share that and hear your thoughts around it today. And so you said, quote, without becoming aware of the shadows, it's almost impossible to integrate and live from our gifts. Without seeing the shadow, we stay in the shadow. The shadow represents the seed. The gift represents the tree. When the seed is suppressed, it's not given the care and attention it's required for it to grow into its purpose. And it stays in the darkness as a tiny seed. When it's meant to be a tree, a leader, a creator, a visionary, and so on and so forth. And so, from your perspective now, how can we best embrace and navigate the intricate interplay between our shadows and our gifts? And how does this process contribute to our ability to live life in alignment with the principles of nature? And moreover, in what ways can we extend this transformative process beyond our individual exploration and towards a more community-oriented perspective?
Yeah. I'll start with the first question. I mean, it's all one, and I'll start first with how can we, really integrate. What I'm hearing is how can we integrate these shadows and bring them into our gifts.
Yeah.
So the first step is to notice them, to be aware of them. And this is why the Gene Keys is such a great tool, because it helps us to recognize where they show up in our life. We have 11 main ones that show up in different places in our life. And so just noticing, like yesterday with my partner, we came home and something triggered him, and then it triggered my ego, and then I was like, oh, here we are, and we both have the same line in our mind and the same line in our emotions. And so when we're both in the shadow, it's like, all right, it's it's really important to notice it, but this tool has helped me to do exactly this, to notice, to be aware. So that's the first step. Just bring awareness and embrace it. And embracing it is just like a child, when a child does something wrong, we're not going to go and hit them and yell at them. We're just going to, hey, like can I, we're going to have maybe a conversation. And I mean, it depends on the person, right? There's all different.
If you're not prone to noticing, however, then how, right? So like maybe you pick up the Gene Keys book and you begin to contemplate what it's showing, what it's inviting you into. But if you don't pick up the Gene Keys book, like, is it that we need to turn to teachers and teachings, or like, what are some practical ways of beginning to notice? Because the thing about the shadow is that it's the shadow because it's so unnoticeable until it is brought into the light, right? Do you know what I mean? Maybe practical ways or invitations for people to begin to notice in a more obvious and embodied way.
So the biggest practical thing is, for me, it's contemplation. And you don't need the Gene Keys for that. Contemplation, I shared a little bit earlier, but it's the middle path between concentration, like really focusing, utilizing the mind, and then meditation, letting go of the mind. And so contemplation, it's the forgotten art of Taoism. And so it's this art that we do naturally. And that's why it's forgotten, and that's why it's kind of even hard to bring words to, because we do it naturally. And all that we're doing, all that I'm inviting others to explore, is to create more pauses in our day-to-day. Just take more pauses before you go into going to work, before you go into a conversation, before you go into anything. Just create a pause, take a few breaths, relax your body. And then you can turn your awareness inwards. So if you're noticing yourself, let's say, being worried about something, invitation is to bring this like curiosity, to inquire rather than like focusing the worry outside. Like bring curiosity and be like, okay, what am I worried about right now? Where's this coming from? Where is it where is it in my body? Like maybe it's like going to be in the chest. Maybe we're going to be like, oh my god, like I'm breathing really shallow. And then just with this curiosity, when we're curious, we're naturally more open. When we pause, we create space to hear our own wisdom. We can actually turn our awareness inwards. I mean, I do this every day. So for me, it's 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 become part of my life to keep turning my awareness inwards. And so contemplation happens when we create pauses and when we bring our awareness inwards to explore from a place of openness what anything, really, any quality, anything we can explore. When we're doing the dishes, we could do it. When we're driving, we could do it. It doesn't take us away from life. It's not something we have to make space to do because we're already, we're already naturally doing it. It's just slowing down, creating pauses, breath, connecting to our breath, and then just bringing the inquiry, bringing the curiosity inwards and seeing what comes through.
Yeah. I love this word. It's presencing. So combining presence with sensing. And you're reminding me of that now, like basically opening up our awareness as often as we can and being present with the sensorial experience of the moment, and then allowing our natural capacities for meaning making to arise and not trying to direct it. Because that's like you were saying, between focus and meditation is contemplation. The focus is where you're like really trying to direct, the experience. Meditation is just this full surrender. And that middle path is really, I love that. It's being present with the experience and allowing the unnatural capacities to arise without directing it too much. I think that's super important. And so then, okay, so that's a really wonderful way to begin to become aware of the shadows, and that then allows us to begin out on the path of integrating them and transforming them into our gifts. And so how do we then navigate that from the place of noticing and recognizing and embracing, like you mentioned, to embrace it like you'd embrace a child? Then how do we nurture it into our gifts?
So as we embrace the shadow, as we notice it through contemplation or any tool, contemplation is my tool of utilizing this, and there's many tools, right? This is just one of them. But it's how we embody the gifts. It's actually taking action on the contemplation. So this is, the Jinkies is all about bringing the masculine and feminine together, right? Concentration, more masculine, more directing the energy, more of that. And then meditation, more of the feminine, more yielding, more relaxing. And then contemplation, it's bridging the right hemisphere with the left hemisphere. So it's utilizing the mind and then the body wisdom as well. And then we bring that into life. We bring that into our work. We bring that into our relationships. So when we receive an insight, because that's what contemplation does, it opens our mind and our body. When we're more open, insights start coming through. We start making new connections. to take action on those actions, to take actions on those insights. So that's it. And then we begin embodying the gift.
Yeah.
We begin walking with it. We begin sharing it.
Yeah.
And
so there's this necessary courage that's needed then, especially because the shadow tends to be, these shadows within tend to be these parts of ourselves that we stuffed away because they weren't held and accepted. They weren't allowed to be present at some point in our developmental phases of life when we were younger. So we kind of push it away and suppress it. But of course, we're always carrying it with us anyways. Like Robert Bly has this amazing image of like carrying this big sack behind us where we stuff all of our unwanted or undesired or hoarded parts of ourselves into this sack, and we're carrying it along, but we forget that we're carrying it, you know? And so because they were unwanted, undesired by usually the social field in which we were developing in as young ones, then there's pain there too, usually, right? And so then that pain, whether we unconsciously know it's there, but when we begin to become conscious of it, to notice it, we also recognize like, whoa, there's a lot there, you know, and then the fear might arise, and you know, the anxiety, the uncertainty of how to meet it. So yes, taking action on the insights that come, but also that can be really difficult for people, you know? Like, it can be hugely difficult and scary.
So I'll take it back a step before the actions. So what I have been doing is, you know, contemplation goes a long way. It's for everything. We can contemplate the gifts, we can contemplate the cities. So first, if the courage is not there to take action on what we're receiving, it's to just explore, you know, bring that inner curiosity to explore your gifts, to explore these qualities, to ask questions, to be curious where they show up, how they show up. And the more you contemplate the gifts, the more naturally, it's a natural process, you know, contemplation and then taking action on them. This is a natural process. And because it's like nature moves in its own rhythm. It's going to take as long as it takes. And having support, I know that was one of the questions you asked. Yeah, having support is really, really important on any, I feel for me, it's like, if I want to go deeper within myself and within my relationships and then take it out into the community, support is important. So reaching out to someone that can hold space, someone that is also interested in what you're interested, someone that is qualified, like a mentor or a coach, someone that or a group of people. You know, there's so many free gatherings, especially around the Gene Keys. There's so many groups and ways people come together and explore and give space to be witnessed and seen. So there, to find these groups so that you can explore your gifts and your shadows more with others.
Right.
That's very supportive.
Yeah, because it's inherently an initiatory process to transform our shadows into our gifts. You know, we become different in a significant way, and for an initiatory process to be rooted, to be anchored, for it to be, I think, for it to be a regenerative, ongoing thing to live into, we do need to be seen and held in some kind of community and or social structure. We need to be seen for that transformation, and then held in that gift. Because just because you transform the shadow into the gift, it doesn't mean all of a sudden that gift is just like readily available all the time and that you mastered it. Actually, it's just like you just open the door to that gift.
Exactly.
It's just been
Exactly.
brought into the light. Now you need to refine it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a relationship,
Yeah.
it's a
Right.
relationship. Yeah, we can't expect like on the first date to be like, oh, I know everything, know everything about you and I'm in love and all the things. It's like it's a mystery, it's a dance, it's a relationship, it's a continuous contemplation, a continuous ripening, maturing.
Mm.
And that's how the city actually comes, it comes with it. There's no like how to get to the city. It comes when the fruit is ripe enough, it falls from the tree. And
Right.
so the city, there's nothing we need to do to figure out how to do. It's just embracing the shadows, bringing awareness to the shadows, and embodying the gifts as we contemplate, as we bring it into our relationships, as we bring it into group dynamics, and practicing, seeing how our gifts show up,
Mm.
seeing the different ways they interact within our daily life. And that's the other thing, bringing it into our daily life.
Yeah.
That's my biggest practice, is bringing these contemplations into my life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're not integrating it into your day-to-day, it stays, like we started the conversation, it stays kind of up here in the thinking mind and the contemplative mind, but to bring it down into the body and to learn how to embody it, learn how to dance with it, and to allow it to guide you through the dynamic moments of life, that really does begin to refine our gifts into, and nurtures and nourishes the fruiting of it in that natural process of where we'll actually be confident, clear that we are on the path of some kind of mastery with our unique gifts to give. I'm reminded of another quote I pulled from your writing. I'd love to share that. So you say, prosperity also carries within it the essence of trust, trusting there is always more to give, as we are part of nature, part of the divine creator. The more we give, the more we are open to receive, and the more we are open to receive, the more we give, thus being a generator of continuous prosperity that is good for self, other, and the whole. You say, contemplating the question, what is of highest service for myself and for the whole? Living this question generates a win-win-win, allowing for maximum nature support, cosmic support, and human support. I love that. And I'm wondering how we, as individuals and communities, can cultivate this mindset of abundance and trust in our capacity to both give and receive. And how does this mindset contribute to our ability to align with our unique purpose and generate prosperity in our lives and communities?
Yeah. So how can we cultivate more trust within ourselves and community?
Yeah. And this natural sense of abundance, trusting in the abundance that allows, it nurtures our capacity to give and receive, to be in that, to be living that natural law of reciprocity. How does that nurture our unique purpose? Yeah.
I really love our conversation. As I'm seeing, we're moving through the sequences of the gene keys, actually moving from the genius sequence, which is our prime gifts and shadows, then into our relationships, which is the Venus sequence, our emotional realm, and now into the pearl, which is this question. Our pearl is our service to the world. It's about prosperity through simplicity, and it's asking this question. It's asking this question. It's how can I be of highest service to the whole? And yeah, and how can we nurture this trust, so that we can really live from this place of true abundance, of true prosperity. And this is it's been such a journey for me, this exploration, this inquiry. trust.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share how how it's showing up. I feel these trinities are really important to know if we're in full trust with life and with self and with other.
Okay.
For me, to be really in full trust, I have to be in trust with myself, to really trust myself.
Yeah.
To also trust another, to trust that they're exactly where they need to be, that they're on the right path, that they're doing their best, to trust another fully, and then to trust in the whole, to trust in the world, to trust in the universe.
Mm.
So this trinity is really important to cultivate this deeper trust that's in life, that's imprinted in all of life, which is to me, trust is it's the essence of love. Without trust, there's no love. Without trust, there's no, trust is what guides the way. It's the, again, I feel it's that masculine principle of fire, but then the love, it's the all-encompassing, the feminine that brings us into unity. And so I feel, for me, how it's been showing up is I've contemplated it, like, okay, I trust myself, I trust in the whole, I trust that life is happening as it's meant to. But then when it comes to others, I've noticed that's where I struggle the most.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of suspicious of this, and I'm kind of like doubting this, and I'm not really sure of this. And I see this is where it shows up for me. And so this is where it's been my biggest work, to trust in another, to remember that they are also part of the whole, just as I am. They're also, we are individual parts of the whole. And for me, it's been this continuous reminder, especially in my relationship, to keep seeing, where am I not trusting? As my partner is my perfect reflection. He just reflects it all back to me. And so how can we cultivate this deeper trust? Being really, I think the first step is being really honest with ourselves. Where are we not trusting? Where are we not trusting? And why are we not trusting? And to just allow that, to sit with that, to feel that, to explore that, to see what that brings up. And it might bring childhood memories, it might bring, all sorts of things, trauma even, maybe. But trust is such an important component to prosperity. Because without trust, we're holding back. We're not fully giving our gifts. We're not fully giving. We might even give, but not truly. We might give, but there's an expectation to receive it back. So it's not genuine giving. When we give because we are given. Life gives to us, and we're given, and so we're meant to give. And naturally, as we give, life gives more to us to give, because it's just nature. And so observing nature and embodying more of the principles of nature helps us to align more to these natural cycles. And as Richard Root says, there's cycles of decline and there's cycles of expansion. There's cycles of growth and there's cycles of decline. This is very natural. So sometimes I notice, like, especially in the Western world, there's so much focus on expansion, keep expanding, keep more courses, more this, more. It's like, whoa, like, can we slow down for a bit? Like, where do we think we're going? It's like the system, our body, our being can only take so much depending on our capacity to hold the transformation. It's not only expansion, there's contraction as well. And so to trust in the cycles, to trust in the decline when we're not receiving so much prosperity, but to also trust that we're given exactly what we need to fulfill our purpose, to fulfill our dharma. We're given exactly. Life is giving, and that's what prosperity is. It's remembering that we're one with nature. And so when we're one with nature, we're going to be supported by nature. And some people are not going to need $10,000 a month. Some people are going to need $2,000 a month, and they're going to live a very fulfilling, enriching life, a very impactful life, a very present life. And some people are going to need $500 a month, depending on where they are in the world. It really depends, right? So depending on our purpose, our dogma, our calling, what we're here to share, what we're here to bring, what deeply fulfills us, we're gonna be given different means. We're not all meant to receive the same thing. But to trust in that is gonna help us to share it generously rather than to hold it all to ourselves and be like, okay, I can't because I barely have anything. So I hope this helps answer this question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's vitally important to really understand that one point you said. I mean, lots of what you said, but that point of life is going to give you exactly what you need to become who you know yourself to be. Like, that is so important. And prosperity, of course, lies within that. It lies within the becoming of who you are, who you're, I guess, meant to be, but more so just like who you are now and who you are emerging into becoming. That life right now always is giving you exactly what you need. And yeah, and it takes a lot of trust to really know that, because life throws a lot of challenging hurdles and obstacles consistently. So to trust that those are for our good and for our betterment, for our development, and for our ultimate purposeful and most meaningful lived experience, it takes a lot. It's essential. And the more we trust, the more obvious all of that becomes. And so then the ease we can find in that becoming process. Time for one more question.
Yeah.
Okay. There's this concept of the golden path with the gene key system, right? And it makes me think of this metaphor, this idea of there being this golden thread that emanates from the center of our heart and connects us to our own unique path of life, this path of fulfillment and purpose and meaning, and that it originates in the center of our heart. And I don't know if that's what the golden path is necessarily about in the gene keys, but I imagine that there's a similarity there. And I guess I'm wondering, in light of those metaphors, those ideas, those stories, how do you envision the gene keys, but also just, yeah, this orientation of the gene keys? How do you envision it contributing to the revival of this wild essence within, this wild heart, the core of our authenticity and our true sense of being? Yeah. Yeah.
The golden path. The golden path is it's the full map. It's the full hologenetic sequence. It's all the sequences, the trinity. The physical, which is our genius expression, the outer expression and the inner expression, the being and the doing. And then the Venus sequence, it's our emotions, our relationships, our imprintings from the time of conception all the way to age 21. And then it's the pearl. It's our flowering, our service to the world. It's the mental frame, actually. And so this trinity creates the golden path. And at the center, you shared it so beautifully, at the center is our SQ, our spiritual quotient, our inner child. This is the imprinting, the coding that we receive the moment we're born. This is the imprinting that happens from age 0 to 7. So our inner child. And what this represents, it's the flowering of our highest heart, like our heart just bursting out, which connects us to everything else. And it's our inner wisdom, and it lies deep within our body, because we remember the wisdom of our childhood. It's stored in our cells, it's stored in our body. We don't always remember it through the mind, but we have it in our cells, in our body, in our physicality. And so, yeah, the golden path, it's this thread. As one sequence, as we unlock one sequence, it unlocks another. There's no beginning and end necessarily, but they all feed on each other. They all help each other, like an ecosystem, to flower. And at the center is our inner child. At the center is when our consciousness first comes into the world of form, individuated from the mother, right? And so it's this opportunity to remember these codes, these qualities that we carry within, so that we can weave the golden thread in our relationships, in our work, in our life. And we're already doing it. That's the beautiful thing, we're already doing it.
Right.
And what I want to leave with is that the shadows, they're not meant to necessarily go away unless we're like fully enlightened, right? But they're not. They're here for our evolution. They're the seed. And so the more awareness we have, which is what the Gene Keys helps us do, it helps us to open our hearts. That's what the golden path is. Helps us to embody our gifts and open our hearts so that we can be of highest service. And the more we're on this path, the more subtle the shadows become. The ego is very, very sneaky. And so it's not necessarily meant to go away. It's just meant to be witnessed, and how subtle it could be. And the more wholesome that way we are, the more human we stay. We're not, and that's what the Gene Keys really helps us do. It's to be embodied here in this life now. Not to worry so much about the cities and these higher states. They're going to come when they come. Focus on the gifts, focus on the heart, and to walk the path of the heart as we contemplate, as we explore, as we relax more, as we seek friendship and community to be held and seen, and to see others and to hold others, because we're here to walk together. We're not here to do this alone. And that's another part of the Gene Keys, that our prosperity really flourishes, our work really flourishes here when we allow other people to come into our life, to weave our heart vision out into the world. We're not here to do it alone. We're an ecosystem, just like nature. And so,
yeah, love that. I want to share one last quote and we can wrap this up. You reminded me of Don Juan from Castaneda's work, how he says, the question to ask yourself in any given moment is, does this path have heart? Yeah. Thank you for being here with me today. Really appreciate it. Is there anything you want to share? This will be released like maybe within a month or so. Is there anything you want to share around offerings or your work, directing people to in particular?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
It's a pleasure, really.
A little bit about the Gene Keys and my passions, and what really brings me alive. And I do Gene Key readings, Gene Key explorations, different ways of deepening our understandings of our gifts and our shadows and what we're here to share with the world. So if anyone is interested, you're welcome to reach out, and I'm happy to share this journey with you. And I'm also starting to bring more rituals into the Gene Keys. So I'm starting to do in-person Gene Keys with fire in front of us, where we can drink tea and explore these codes in a more like person to person way. So if you are also in yeah, somewhere in the world where I am present, I am happy to do that.
Yeah, lovely.